also it's Easter today, right? And maybe oversimplification, but I think both, we're celebrating Hanamatsuri, which is the birth of the Buddha, and I'm likely oversimplifying it, but Easter is a celebration of birth as well. So anyway, so please join me in Gasho as I read the words of Shinran Shonin from the Hymns of the Pure Land. The fundamental intent for which the Buddha appeared in the world was to reveal the truth and reality of the primal vow. He taught that to encounter or behold a Buddha is as rare as the blossoming of the Udambara. So, Namo Amida Butsu. So, Udambara is a tree that always bears fruit, but rarely blossoms flowers. So, without the birth of Shakyamuni Buddha, we would not be able to encounter the primal vow of Amida. And as we reflect on the causes and conditions that made it possible for us to be together today, it's really a remarkable thing to consider. And without the birth of the Buddha, we probably would not even exist as a Sangha today. How I interpret what Shinran is saying is that for us to encounter the Buddha's teaching is a rare opportunity. And the intent of a service like this is an opportunity to listen to the Dharma. I don't mean just to listen to me, but anytime life unfolds before you, whether it's good events, bad events, or difficult events, that is the Dharma unfolding before your eyes. So the world of truth is always speaking to us. We just have to listen. It's an opportunity to learn and grow. When I was a Dharma school student, I was often the only Dharma school student in attendance, right, Lori? What? Yeah, I think our memories are maybe different. So, a visiting minister would be asked to give a Dharma talk to the Dharma school students first. So he would, since I was usually there by myself, he would usually stand in front of me. He would usually stand in front of me and talk directly to me and ask me a lot of questions. I think that was very stressful for me. But I had to keep reminding myself, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. So this time I'm going to ask all of you here some questions. So today, who are we celebrating the birth of? Yeah. Shinran Shonin. Who said? No. Siddhartha Gautama. So Shakyamuni Buddha. Yeah. So, where was he born? In Lumbini's garden. Yeah, good. Yeah, in India. Maybe, yeah, Nepal. Yeah, right. So, what does the Hanamido represent? Yeah, so Hana means flower. It also means nose, but that's and Do means a hall or a holy space. So what does Hanamatsuri actually mean? How do you translate Hanamatsuri? Flower festival, exactly right. Great. We all pass. As a Dharma school student, we always, Lori can verify this. We always prepared a program for Hanamatsuri, just like the Dharma school students did today. Sometimes we sang a song, sometimes we acted out a play, like the life of the Buddha, and we didn't get to do. Oh, we did a puppet show once. Yeah. And I know Ewan had to play his cello, so sometimes I had to even play my saxophone. So my sister Susie, Gail, and Phyllis Kimmich, Miyako's mom, as Dharma school teachers, they made us do many really awkward things. Is that you said that, Lori? Yeah, that's good. So many of us know the legends of Prince Siddhartha's birth. According to legend, Queen Maya dreamed that a white elephant with 6 tusks entered her right side. This auspicious event was interpreted to mean that she had conceived a child who would become either a world ruler or the greatest spiritual ruler the world has ever seen. So we are told she picked a leaf from a tree and had a painless birth from her side, from her side while standing. Not very realistic, right, for you mothers. Siddhartha was born from Queen Maya's right side, and so the right side is considered the side of purity. So many of the rituals that are observed during Hanamatsu are based on the events we are told happened at the time of Prince Siddhartha's birth. As the story goes, as was common in the day, Queen Maya was returning to her family home country to give birth to her baby. On the way with her entourage, the queen wanted to rest when they came upon Lumbini's garden, and that is where Siddhartha was born. So the Hanamido, or altar of bright flowers that you see behind me, it provides a setting of the beautiful Lumbini garden where he was born. And it's said that with his birth, flowers bloomed and all the celestial birds and heavenly beings sang in celebration of his birth. And that is represented by all of us singing. It rains sweet rain, bathing the Buddha. So that's, we pour sweet tea over the Buddha statue. I remember being told when I was young that the proper way to pour tea was over the Buddha's shoulder and not over his head, out of respect for the Buddha. But I know we all want to pour it over his head, so just keep doing that. So an important point that is important for all you to know as being a former dentist is that the sweet tea that is poured over the statue of the Buddha in the Hanamido is called amacha. It's a tea made by soaking the leaves of a certain variety of hydrangea. So it's so sweet that it's many times the sweetness of sugar. It's thought to have many medicinal properties, including the treatment of periodontal disease. I recently learned also that amacha is also known as Buddha's tears. So all of nature was announcing the celebration of the birth of the Buddha. So when I hear all of nature celebrated, I'm sure they also meant even cats showed up to celebrate the Buddha's birth. So I'm sure they would have included our cats, Mochi and Bodhi. So as we celebrate birthdays, we recognize and appreciate the rarity of birth. The joy of birth is a wonderful gift. It's a reminder for us to appreciate what we have been given and for the sanctity of all life. As we celebrate the birth of the Buddha on Hanamatsu, instead of being caught up in the mystical nature of the story of his birth, we should realize the significance and reason behind Shakyamuni Buddha being born so that we could encounter the teaching of Amida Buddha and to truly celebrate all life. When we hear the stories, we should not get caught up in whether the story is historically true, but what the stories mean. They have spiritual significance for us. The point of the story is that an important religious figure was born. So when we celebrate Hanamatsu, we're celebrating the birth of the Buddha in each of our hearts. Hanamatsu is a celebration, as it is a birthday celebration for Shakyamuni Buddha. I think one of the best parts of the story of his birth is that the newborn baby immediately got up and walked 7 steps. That's not realistic, right? But that's the legend. And he raised one hand pointing to the sky and one hand pointing to the ground, and he said, "In the heavens above and the earth below, I alone am the world-honored one." So when he walked the 7 steps, it symbolized going beyond or transcending the 6 realms of samsara, or of our human life, into awakening. It's like what Shinran Shonin said, something similar in the postscript of the Tanisho. He said, "When I consider deeply the compassionate vow of Amida, which arose from 5 kalpas of profound thought, I realized that it was entirely for the sake of myself alone. Then how I am filled with gratitude for the primal vow in which Amida resolved to save me, though I am burdened with such heavy karma." The significance of the Buddha's statement at his birth is that he is truly honored as if he is the only child of the universe. So Shinran realized too that he was so honored because he himself is the subject of great compassion, where Amida Buddha has the focus of great compassion on him. But what him, H-I-M, not the him as in Gatha, what him is Shinran referring to? And this is the Shinran that includes everything about him, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So like the postscript of the Tanisho says, that I read previously, though I am burdened with such heavy karma. You know, you may be familiar with Ryokan. He was a Zen Buddhist monk and a poet who lived in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Ryokan found beauty in the ordinary and saw poetry as a means of connecting with the natural world and expressing the fundamental truths of human existence. So one of his more famous poems is about the falling maple leaf. And it goes like this: showing front, showing back, the falling maple leaf. So, you know, we should be free to show the front and back of ourselves, you know, the good and bad and ugly versions of ourselves. Even the maple leaf is showing us to come as you are. So this is a scroll written by Reverend Gyome Kobose, founding minister of the Buddhist Temple of Chicago. And it says, Nichi Nichi Kore Kojitsu, which translates to every day is a good day. And it's a Buddhist phrase encouraging the idea that each day can be considered a positive and meaningful one, regardless of circumstances. You know, I think this Tuesday is the 55th anniversary of Earth Day, right? And so it's particularly relevant, you know, when we talk about every day is a good day. You know, there's the theme, I think, is about climate change, or being the awareness of climate change. So this saying is often associated with this Nichi Nichi Kore Kojitsu. This saying is often associated with the practice of mindfulness, encouraging people to appreciate the present moment and find goodness in everyday life. And people may use this phrase, a reminder to be grateful for each day and live with intention. You know, every day is a good day is not comparing a good day as compared to a bad day, but that all days are good days and there are no bad days. To a person planning a picnic, rain spoils the day. To a farmer worried about his crops, rain is welcome. To the person planning the picnic, the day becomes bad because his expectations are disappointing. But the day itself is not a bad day. The day is good, but the way a person meets the day makes it a bad day or a good day. This is how our ego selves makes distinctions based on our expectations. We are the ones who turn some days into bad days. Jodo Shinshu practice is often explained as deep listening, and that can be described as listening with the ears of the heart. The former Gomonshu, the spiritual leader of our tradition, spoke about a sign at a temple that said, number one, you should listen as if you're listening for the very first time. Secondly, you should listen as if the message is for you alone. And thirdly, you should listen as if this is the last time you'll ever do so in your life. You know, when you let these words become etched into your heart, it's the understanding that this is the most important day of your life, that today is a good day. Today you're given the gift of hearing the Dharma. To understand that every day is a good day is Buddhism. It's the content of enlightenment. Enlightenment is to live each day as a good day. You know, when we are born, we might not walk 7 steps, but we all make our own personal statements by crying out as loudly as we can. What we are saying is we are truly honored as if we are the only child of the universe. You know, the story of the Buddha's birth can sound like a fairy tale, but, you know, I'll talk about Kyle since he's sitting right here with us. But after Kyle was born, I thought about this story a little differently. You know, for all of you parents, how did you feel when your child was born? Would you describe it as a feeling of indescribable joy? You know, I can remember the day when Kyle was born and the emotion I felt. I realized more clearly that the joy of birth is without bounds. It is timeless and filled with life. I appreciated it as the rare event that it was. You know, one thing most often neglected in the story of Queen Maya, the Buddha's mother, the heartbreak and suffering she must have gone through with her difficulties of becoming pregnant. She is the one who gave the Buddha life through her body, realizing that motherhood demands breaking through limitations. And with the ultimate sacrifice of her life, the Buddha was able to be born. You know, Hanamatsuri is the celebration of every birth and the value of all life. You know, because of the life I'm given the gift of great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu means it's great to be alive, good to be here, and every day is a good day. When we realize this, at that very moment, the Buddha is born anew in our hearts and minds. You know, in closing, I'd like to read a poem together with you called The Worst Day Ever. And it was written by, over 10 years ago, by a girl named Cheney Gorkin. But at that time, she was a high school student, and she was 17 years old. So this poem changes meaning when you read it from the top down, and then when you reread it from the bottom up. Yeah, it's pretty small. You may have to. Yeah, sorry. Oh, good.
I'll scroll along.
Okay, good. So maybe I'll read it myself. So, okay. Today was the absolute worst day ever, and don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day, because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be obtained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure that you can agree that the reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control, and you'll never hear me say that today was a good day. So let's read it from the bottom up. Today was a good day, and you'll never hear me say that it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be obtained because it's all in the mind and heart, and it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Once in a while, some goodness does shine through, even if this world is a pretty evil place, because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day, and don't try to convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever. Isn't that something? Yeah, it changes its meaning when you read it top down and bottom up. You know, the poem teaches us that one can find good in every moment, and that every day is a good day. It's our self-centered view that sees things through our own lens of understanding as perspective shapes our experiences. So to close, please join me in Gasho. May our journey be guided by Amida Buddha's light of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing compassion as we encounter the opportunities and challenges of each unrepeatable moment. Let us always live with wonder and joy for the miracle of living this human life. Namo Amida Butsu. Naman Dabutsu. Naman Dabutsu. Thank you all for listening.